Yo, what up everybody, it's Tuna. In today's video I wanted to show you how to progress from T1 maps all the way into T16s just by using your Atlas passive skills. So let's just read this one real quick. Adjacent map drop chance. 2% chance for one of the monsters in each of your maps to drop an additional connected map. Connected maps are just going to be maps that are connected to the map that you're currently running, right, as it implies. But essentially what this does is if you stack enough of it, it pretty much guarantees that one monster in your map is going to be dropping a map connected to the map that you're currently running. So to give an example, imagine I was running the Arachnid 2 map here. What that means is that there's going to be a chance for you to drop an adjacent map that is Cells, Pit Map, or Tropical Island. And you cannot actually drop any other map aside for those from that node itself. But essentially what this allows you to do is it allows you to brute force your Atlas progression if you were to pick enough of those Atlas passive nodes. Essentially what you're looking to do is you're looking to stack up enough of them so that you're pretty much guaranteeing an adjacent map drop to drop by killing X amount of monsters in your map, right? This X amount of monsters does not necessarily mean that you have to clear every monster in your map, and this is actually a mistake I see a lot of people doing during Atlas progression, especially early Atlas progression. You do not need to kill every single monster in your map at all. You just want to clear enough monsters until you drop this map, whether it's a -1, in case like, you know, by -1 I mean it goes from a T6 to T5, or a +1, which is what you're looking for, of course, which is going from a T6 to a T7, and that's how you progress your Atlas, right? So yeah, basically you are fishing for this map to drop, and then once it drops, you rush to the boss, you kill the boss, because it also has a chance to drop additional maps, and he basically has the highest chance of any other monster in your map. So yeah, you rush the boss, you get your Atlas completion for that specific map, and then you try to continue to do that with the next map. So in this case, I would have the pit map, and I would try to drop an adjacent map, and I would ideally try to get a T8, in this case it would be Terrace or Castle Ruins, or you know, get unlucky and you might drop a T6, which is Shore or Arachnid Tomb. Right, so now that we know exactly how that works, how do we actually get enough chance to be able to guarantee that we are dropping a connected map by killing monsters in our maps, right? So what we want to do is we want to spec our Atlas into these adjacent nodes. We want to grab as many of them as possible, because yeah, they're just going to increase the amount of chances of getting that extra map. And you know, once you get enough of them, you're pretty much going to guarantee one map to always drop from those monsters. So what I like to do is I like to path through the middle. You're going to come straight through up to this node here, and you definitely want to be grabbing these Kirac nodes as well, because Kirac, he also has the chance to give you additional maps that you haven't completed, which is really good for Atlas progression early on, because he will be selling maps of a certain tier depending on your total Atlas progression, right? So he's going to look at the total Atlas progression number that you have, and he's going to give you maps that are more appropriate for your progression level. And then, you know, you can buy those for chance orbs, or you can buy those for alchemy orbs when you're getting to yellows and reds. And it stops being worth it once you get into T12 plus, because he's going to start asking for chaos orbs, and it is much cheaper to buy them from other players at that point, or to just get them as natural drops. As you can see here, he's going to be giving us a ton of maps, and what you can do is you can just basically open his inventory, and when you press Alt over these maps, you're going to see that they're completed and completed. But in case, you know, if you're just starting out with your Atlas completion, these are going to say incompleted, of course, if you haven't completed them. So yeah, just hover over them, press Alt, and choose the maps that are actually incomplete, and then just buy those. As I previously mentioned, you see some of these gets into some pretty crazy prices, like 5 chaos and whatnot, so definitely never buy them. But the ones for chance orbs and alchemies are always worth to buy, because it saves you time, you know, not having to trade other players and that kind of stuff. And next, another trick is that when you do have your Kirac missions that you can see here, you want to be using them as efficiently and as often as possible, because they give you, of course, the chance to get an uncompleted map. And on top of the fact that it also gives you unique maps, and these unique maps, you know, are generally pretty rare and, you know, are not likely to drop when you're running maps in general. So yeah, you want to prioritize unique maps and then incomplete maps. And when you're getting into reds, the really cool part is that he can also offer you corrupted maps. And when you're initially, you know, working towards your Atlas completion, Val orbs are pretty rare, so you're not going to have a plentiful amount of Val orbs. So just getting the ones that are corrupted from him it's really nice. It's going to be a nice bonus to, you know, completing your Atlas in general. So yeah, that is the priority, the order priority of maps that I want to look at and that I'm generally looking for in this window. But one more thing to mention is that not only do you get those additional maps from the missions themselves, but as you can see here, we have an inventory, we have a plateau and a beach and a bog map. But if I was to open a new map here from Kirac, as soon as that opens, you can check back with him because he's going to give you a new inventory of maps. And that can also be, you know, maps like this. And potentially on League Start, those maps are actually quite expensive. So yeah, definitely something to look for, and potentially maps that you can flip onto the market for extra profit. That is another tip there. So thanks to that strat, you know, we're getting more maps from Kirac missions, and we're also getting more maps from monsters dropping them naturally from the adjacent map drop chance nodes. But we want to really maximize this chance. So what we're going to be doing from here is we're going to path directly all the way up through here. And then we want to go for Wandering Path. And Wandering Path is basically the key to getting insane fast progression in the early game and getting you into red tier maps as fast as possible. And if you don't necessarily want to get into red tier maps, this is also going to help you get basically as many maps as you want of whatever tier, because it's always going to it's always going to guarantee that you drop an adjacent map. So no matter what map you're doing, you're always going to be jumping between two maps essentially. And yeah, it's just a great way to self-sustain maps in the early game once you don't have like a big base and you don't have watch zones and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you'd be rushing Wandering Path and your tree will look something like this. And then from here, you're sort of free to grab as many of these adjacent points as possible. So it'll look something like this. It's going to look a little bit goofy. But what you are looking for here is you see the 64% chance for one monster in each map to drop an adjacent map, right? You want to get that to 100% or as close to as possible. Essentially, you're just going to grab all of these nodes. As you can see now, we're at 100%. We try to make that symmetrical maybe. Cool. We're at 100% chance now to get that. So this means that we're 100% guaranteed to drop an adjacent map. But you can also go beyond that. And what it does when you go beyond that is it has, you know, an extra percent chance. So say if I was to get 2%, an extra 4% there, it means that you have a 4% chance to drop a second one. So, you know, it's like, it's nice, but you don't necessarily want to get that over 100%. 100% is what you want to be at, or as close to 100% as possible, of course, as you don't really want to get unlucky as you're progressing maps. But the next step here would be to try to get higher tier maps. And the reason why you want to get higher tier maps, of course, is because, as I previously mentioned, as you're progressing your atlas, you would rather go for a +1 than a -1. And what these nodes are going to give you is increase that chance by 5% per node. So what you want to do is you want to grab these nodes first, and then we want to go into these ones and grab these as well. And then you can also just path through this keystone, just ignore it, and grab those as well. So at this point, we are going to be getting an 80% chance for the map to be of one tier higher. And you gotta keep in mind that this is very valuable even when you have 4 watch zones. So that's why people are always allocating these nodes, because even when you have 4 watch zones, you can drop maps that are not of you know, what's displayed on your atlas. What happens is that actually the map will enter what we call the equity pool. Essentially what that means is that it's going to increase the chance of your next map to be one tier higher the more maps get sort of deleted by this equity pool. So they will enter this sort of state of limbo and then be awarded to you later on as a map that is actually droppable on your atlas. For the sake of, you know, just progressing your atlas, this atlas here is pretty much as good as it gets in terms of getting to T16s as fast as possible. You can see that, you know, we're going to be needing a certain amount of progression, of course, to get all these points in. But by this point, you're going to be swimming in maps and you're going to be getting to T16s. And that is actually how you know, get to T16s in, you know, finish either Exarch in less than however many hours, depending on, of course, how fast you are. You know, I'm not the fastest player, but I am able to actually get to T16s in 7 hours when I'm playing, you know, a build that I'm most comfortable in. So yeah, finishing either Exarch in 8 hours is not out of the question for me when using this atlas. Yeah, that's one thing that is for sure a tip that you need to keep in mind, because, you know, it's gonna be very, very helpful for you. And the question for you as well is, of course, is your build gonna be able to handle progressing into red tiers that fast? And if the answer is no, then you'll still be able to sort of self-sustain maps into earlier tiers with this, and it's just gonna help you in general. build up a pool of maps and progress, you know, at the speed that you see fit. But at this point, once we build a base of maps, we want to progress into other strategies, right? And Wandering Path generally is not good for those kind of strategies. So you definitely want to be speccing out of this one as soon as possible. You know, once I have a base of maybe like 20 T16 maps, that is when I look to remove Wandering Path. And you know, you might think 20 T16 maps is a lot. It's really not when you have Wandering Path, because you're going to be dropping a few of them every map. Because on top of the fact that you are getting one adjacent guaranteed, these nodes are also doubled, and they will give you, you know, a % chance to duplicate maps on top of, you know, all of this. And that can also apply to this map here. You can only drop one of these per map, but these have the potential to also duplicate this. So you might, you know, in some cases drop 2 T16s, and that's pretty damn cool for your progression. So if you really wanted, you know, if you are actually struggling, you're getting to the T13, T14 number, which is generally when you actually want to be clearing your map more efficiently. Like you want to clear more monsters in your map as they will become much more rare. You can also path out and, you know, grab more of this % chance to get +1 tier. And from there on, basically, you know, you build your pool, you unspec Wandering Path. I would pretty much take all of this off. And then I would start looking into filling out the nodes that I have skipped out on. So, you know, grabbing these, and then going for my league mechanic of choice, which depending on what you enjoy is going to be maybe Essence. It could be something like you could walk towards Legion, getting your altars and stuff like that. I definitely guarantee you go for Searing Exarch altars over Elder, you know, either World altars in the early game, because he's going to give you like Chaos Orbs, GCPs, Sextants, Chisels, Val Orbs, all the stuff that you need to, you know, SSF your way through the Atlas. That pretty much sums up my tips and tricks on how you want to progress the Atlas fast, and how you want to progress it early, and how to get to T16s as fast as, you know, those guys that you see in the naming lights. So with a bunch of practice, you too can do it. And I believe that, you know, as long as you follow this Atlas, you'll be able to get the T16s very fast. So I hope this video was informative and it helped you guys a little bit understand why people are getting maps as fast as they are, and how they can progress all the way into red tiers as fast as they do. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Peace out.